Everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. We're going to talk Lafourche Parish over the next three segments with the Lafourche Parish president, Mr. Archie Chaisson. So, man, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. Great to see you, man. You're looking good. You're trimming up.
Trying. We're trying.
doing good. So, there's always a cloud when we get to this time of year. We're worrying about hurricanes, but you guys got a lot of projects going on. We'll talk about hurricanes in a bit, but got a lot of stuff going on right now in Lafourche, and this is when you make hay, right?
Yeah,
This is the time.
This is kind of it. This is the point where the first couple of months of the year are over with, and you kind of get dialed into the budget. And we're going to talk hurricane stuff in a little bit, but this is the point where we're kind of trying to figure out projects that we maybe didn't finish up last year. There's projects that are literally a year and a half old because we didn't do them, in a post-hurricane auto world because we were worried about so many other stuff. But we're turfing some fields right now down in South Lafourche. It was something that we've worked pretty hard with the city of Thibodeau on. Councilman Grow over the last couple of years has put some money in the budget for the city to kind of help turf some fields around the city in conjunction with some of their dollars. So we kind of made that emphasis to want to do it in South Lafourche as well. It's as much as kids are playing travel ball these days and they're playing at these bigger parks, which tend to have turf fields. We want a bit of play on it. It cuts down on our maintenance cost over the years. So we're doing a field a year in Golden Meadow and La Rose. The first couple of fields have just wrapped up. We're still doing some cleanup work, but we're looking forward to getting some kids playing on those this summer. And then we're going to do a field a year. There's probably 4 fields at each one of those 2 parks. So we're going to do a field a year until we get them all done at each one of those spots.
Okay, I guess I was reading South Lafourche turf fields. I'm thinking the Tarpons, right?
No,
which already had it.
Yeah.
You're just talking about all of the regular little fields.
All the little rec fields, yeah.
And yeah, again, so then you won't be doing. You won't have to cut grass.
That's right.
You won't have to worry about rainouts quite as much. It should drain a little better. And how many would you do? And I guess you want to do the whole parish.
We do.
Eventually?
So we're gonna do 2 a year. So one in La Rose, one in Golden Meadow every year until we get them done. So the next probably 3 or 4 years, we'll probably wrap them all up. We were very lucky enough this year to get about a $650,000 grant from the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which actually gets some money from offshore oil and gas revenue. It's all tied together now, that we're going to match with our parish recreation dollars. So we should be going to construction on a set of fields behind the new Lockport Community Center. Yeah. It was a project we built with some federal dollars that we got to cut the ribbon on in 2020, just before the lockdown happened. But we're going to be building what is going to be 2 adult-sized fields, but something that we can convert to small kid fields too if we need to. And fence it off. So we'll have basically 4 ball fields right there. And then we're going to do 2 football, soccer type fields. And then we're going to dig a big pond in the back. So the pond should start. It's raining right now. Hopefully stuff dries out. Right. It seems like every time we're ready to get started, we get one of these little showers that come through. But we're going to dig the pond first and bring all the dirt to the front and level the thing off, turtle back it the way it needs to be. And then hopefully toward the end of the summer, we get to the point where we're actually seeing some construction on those fields as well, and the lighting. And hopefully next year, the concession stand and some other some improvements will come.
Is this stuff y'all can do yourselves?
So most of it's contracted out. There's only a few turf contractors around, especially in the state and the local area. So they handle most of that. But the bigger stuff that's happening in Lockport is all contractor work. We're doing some stuff with a local maintenance contractor that we already have some work with. And then when we get to the point where we're ready to start installing the fields and the lights, we'll put together a project. But all being done by local contractors, all being done by local engineers and being designed for us, as well as the Golden Meadow boat launch. It was something that needed to be kind of fixed up before the hurricane. The hurricane kind of racked some of the wharves and stuff. So we're going to be redoing the 2 walkways and the docks, as well as kind of the inlet where you drop off. Raising it up a little bit so when the tides are high, you don't get your feet wet when you're launching your boat. Which if you ever launched your boat and got your feet wet,
I've never figured that part
out.
You
know what a pain in the butt it is to fish with wet shoes all day long. But it's going to be closed down on May the 15th. We're going to shut the launch down for about 45 days. We waited until May 15th so we can get a couple of weeks into shrimp season, because there are some shrimpers that use part of the dock to get stuff in and out. There really is no good time to close a boat launch, especially going in the summer when fish are really starting to run. But it was something that we figured if we got done now, the contractor moves in really quickly, we can get it done, hopefully not a whole lot of weather delays, that it would be opened back up hopefully sooner than 45 days is what we're hoping for. But it'll be opened up kind of in that middle of June spot before the height of real summer fishing season starts.
Right.
And we can get that project built underway.
Will anglers be able to use another boat launch around the area?
Yeah, so there's our public launch down in Leeville that you can launch and kind of come back up the backside of Golden Meadow on either side. And there's also a private launch at the end of West 107th Street. Yeah. You can pay like $5 and launch your boat there if you wanted to get to that side of the parish. But just some quality of life stuff. It was a lot of stuff. The turf fields, the the increased recreational opportunities was something that came out of the hurricane. As we did these town halls up and down the bayou, trying to figure out kind of a long-term recovery plan that the council's actually going to vote on tonight at our council meeting to adopt. Quality of life stuff was one of the big things that came to the forefront. It was, yes, we need more affordable housing. Yes, we need bigger and taller levees and stronger stuff to keep the floodwaters out for future storms. But if we're going to continue to try to recruit people here to actually live here, and if we're going to be able to recruit businesses here and have their employees live here, they wanted to see some induced quality of life stuff, which led to the turf fields, the bigger recreation facilities, and stuff like that we can use as kind of a showcase to say, look, your business can locate here. We have Nichols, we have Fletcher. We can produce you the employees over the years. But if your employees want to live here, yes, the housing market is okay. Yes, the schools are great. And oh, by the way, your kids can play at some of our recreational facilities.
Right. Yeah, a big, just talking to Chaisson about some of the big stuff that's going to be going down in Fouchon. That's going to be millions and millions of dollars worth of projects that people are going to need to work there. And they can maybe live somewhere and drive into town, down to Fouchon.
Yeah, no doubt. And Chet and his board are doing a really great job down there, and it's really driving the rest of the economy now. When we look to like offshore wind and some of the other energy production stuff that they're working on, we have to have those resources here from the live and stay, because you don't want to live in New Orleans and drive to Fouchon every day, right? You want to be semi close, and if we have all the fun stuff that people want to see there, it's going to make it more conducive to getting those businesses to really, really locate here instead of trying to farm it out to Houston or New Orleans or somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, no, I get a lot of folks living on 308. There's plenty of farmland there that can build houses. All right, now let's talk about flood insurance. I mean, nobody knows what's going on, but it seems like this ball is headed our way, so we're going to have to know what's going on. So flood insurance and then freeboard requirements for new construction. And to me, that's what real estate and stuff is going to be our biggest issue. If you want to sell a house, buy a house, what do we do?
It's we've screamed, and I know we've talked about it before on the show, Harry, that this whole risk rating 2.0 thing is just absurd, right? It was something that was started really under the Trump administration, and they kind of pulled back on it a little bit. And then when President Biden came in, they kind of ran full force because they're trying to use their equity in action tagline to say that this is an equitable program when it's really not. And it's something that you've seen the several parishes, Lafourche and Terrebonne are joining in with the Association of Levy Boards and the AG's office to actually sue FEMA over the process and how they actually instituted this kind of executive rule, because it's not even a law.
Which is an algorithm, right?
That's right. Sure. Never went through Congress. My good friend Matt Jewell over in St. Charles Parish actually made a public information request to FEMA to want to know what was in the model, right? If you say we have this risk and you say we have all these factors, well, then tell us what that is. And we can go mitigate it somehow, right? Is it bigger pump stations, taller levees, whatever, right? They just won't tell us what's in the box. So they never did respond to Matt's public information request. So Matt filed a federal lawsuit over that. So there's a whole lot of stuff happening through the court system, but we're still seeing the premium increases, right? We're still seeing people get that 18% hit a year till they hit those actuarial rates. They're seeing people who are trying to build a new house or buy a house that maybe didn't have flood insurance that they're trying to put it on, and we're seeing these weird $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 premiums. And I was in Baton Rouge this morning because one of the things that the Code Council is trying to do is add a thing called freeboard into our planning regulations, right? So a lot of us, Lafourche and Terrebonne, of course, have these flood insurance rate maps, right, that tell us how high you should build if you're in a flood zone or a special flood hazard area. So what the Code Council said, is if your base flood elevation is a +6, right? The bottom of your first floor has to be at that +6, then you should go a foot above that, right? So you should build to a +7. Theory, it would make sense, right? If you have the funding to do that, the higher you can get, that's great. Under the old flood insurance program, you used to be able to get credit for that. So for every foot you went above that base flood elevation, they gave you a discount on your flood insurance and in some cases your homeowners, because you maximize that protection in their eyes. Under risk rating 2.0, that doesn't happen anymore. We don't get credit for being in the community rating system, which is called CRS. We don't get credit for increased freeboard requirements, whether it's a foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. So what we tried to tell the Commerce Committee this morning was, instead of LSUCC shoving that down our throats in a time when we're already seeing high flood insurance rates, high construction costs, high interest rates, just leave it alone, right? Leave it up to us as the locals to know what's best in our communities, and let us pass those floodplain management regulations, right? So I sat next to Rick, who's a billing official over in Denham Springs, and those guys from 2016 know all about floods, right? You're talking, in some of those floods, you had 5, 6, 7 foot of water in people's houses. You look at Katrina, right, up to the rooftops. a foot of freeboard is not going to do you anything in those catastrophic situations. So we're going to kill the real estate market even more than it already is with interest rates and everything else. Because what's going to happen is either the developer is going to have to put that added material in there, or you as the homeowner, when you buy a lot, you go, oh, well, geez, now I got to go to a +7, right? That just added a mound of dirt, another foot of concrete, whatever foundation type you have. And we're just continuing to drive up construction costs in a time where we need some sort of affordable housing, especially in Lafourche and Terrebonne in a post-IDA world, right? So it was something that I think the committee heard us pretty loud and clear. Representative Fontenot, who sits on Commerce, asked some pretty pointy questions about what does it do to the cost of construction? Do we get, would you get a reduction on your flood insurance? And the answers to all of that is too much and no.
Right.
So I think the House and the Senate are kind of work on, I don't know, a concurrent resolution or how they're the mechanism to do it, right? But pull that requirement out of the new codes that they're going to adopt later this summer. That's part of a whole code package and updating energy codes and all kind of stuff coming through the LSUCC. Some of it makes a whole lot of sense, right? There's a new code requirement that talks about, how to ice and water shield your roof and your decking of your roof. Because a lot of what we saw especially in the homes that were built post 2007 with the building code, they did really well, right? The roof, the shingles may have come off, the paper came off, and that's where the water came in, right? So how do we protect those seams to keep that from happening? Stuff like that. So there's some really good stuff in the new code updates, but this is one of the things that just did make a whole heck of a lot of sense to us. So we were up there this morning with the Police Jury Association, LMA, some other folks, the building officials of Louisiana Bowl, to really say, okay, guys, like we got to figure out a way around this because you're going to kill us. And oh, by the way, the same people who elected you elected us. So just leave it to us, right? Why put another unfunded mandate on top of us that we're gonna have to run through?
Well, you look at how much money Washington is spending right now post the lockdowns and all that. You're going, why are you making a stand right here on this? And I completely understand, but to not give us credit for the levies that we all paid for and the money we've been saving, right? Because we hadn't been flooding for the last couple of years for the events makes a big difference.
And some of those representatives on the committee, I know Representative Fontenot knew it. We had, and I know Reggie Dupree and President Dove have talked about this statistic before, but you go back to Rita where we had 11,000 homes that flooded. Fast forward to Barry, there were 11, right, between Lafourche and Terrebonne. That's a huge number. It wasn't because people built a foot above freeboard, right? Because we taxed ourselves to build levees and we did better drainage and better pump stations. And the catastrophic, what I call the bathtub floods, right, where something weird happens and the bathtub fills up and it floods everything, is not what we see, right? You see those every 10, 20 years, like you saw with 2016, like you saw with Katrina where the infrastructure failed. The majority of what we see is a basketball that gets stuck in a culvert, right? It's really isolated. So having everybody mandated to build a foot above may, in the grand scheme of things, over the course of 100 years, stop a few isolated incidents, but it's not gonna have the effect that I think they will, albeit putting the cost on the burden of everybody else who's trying to build right now.
Right. And like I say, interest rates have gone up, inflation's going up, cost of materials, and now you're going to throw this on top. So, look, by the time November ends, and, I guess maybe we do Thanksgiving, Christmas, Mardi Gras and all, it just seems like time speeds up and hurricane season is here again, So we're there, and I guess, we're prepared as much as we have forever, I mean, things are good, but, you never know when it's your time. Hopefully we don't do a Lake Charles where we get back to back or every other year or something like that. So how do we prepare? Are we prepared for hurricane season?
Yeah, it was weird, Harry. I did a presentation last week for a group of emergency managers from across the country who were in town for a recovery workshop that GOSEP did. And they wanted to touch on, kind of obstacles of the hurricane, the immediate aftermath, and then kind of long-term recovery stuff. And it was weird to put together that PowerPoint and kind of, watch the roof blow off a Lady of the Sea again and watch, look at pictures of power lines being down and houses that were laying on the ground and all the weird stuff that we saw, in the immediate aftermath of the storm. And it was, I walked back into the office after that presentation that day and I went, hey guys, guess what we got to do next week? And they're like, what? I was like, well, we got to schedule a pre-hurricane meeting, right? You got to put everybody under the same roof again and go, all right, what are we going to do again this year? Luckily last year was quiet. We didn't have any huge issues. So there's really nothing to kind of hot wash from last year, right? But there's always still a little bit of improvement, right? As communication systems, we put new repeaters on radio towers. As the sheriff's office and Chet, those guys at the port have made technology upgrades so we can see cameras. As we bring in new pump stations online, all that fun stuff. So we're as ready as we always are. Ida opened up a whole bunch of holes for us about, how do we communicate? Did we have enough generators? Did we have enough places to put people that, once the hurricane hit and we had 30 people in the EOC with us, where did those 30 people sleep, right? We were bunking everywhere and sleeping on sofas for a lot of cases. And, did we have, ways to talk with the other agencies, right? Well, while, the Air National Guard is in there, Louisiana National Guard is in there with us, while DOTD and GOSEP and all those people are in our building. Well, how are we going to talk to the water district when we can't figure out why the water's not on, right? Do our radios work, right? Is everything charged up? That sort of stuff. Do we have enough sandbags in case we need it? So, working through all those preparations as we get into June, knowing that typically June and July are somewhat quiet, knock on wood. Hopefully it stays that way.
One and
right?
one little baby, and then wait
August,
till August.
That those last, kind of mid-August to mid-September is the time where everybody kind of sits on the edge of their chair. And then of course, we got hit by Zeta at the end of October that one year. And like the next day we had a cool front. So it went from a hurricane to 49 degrees when you woke up the next morning. It was very weird. But everybody cleaned up their yards really quick because there was no mosquitoes. It wasn't hot, that sort of stuff. But we've changed up some of the ways we think about evacuations. We still have, 1,500 people in temporary housing, right? Some of those people are still in the travel trailers that the state put out. A lot of those people are still in the FEMA units. Those things are not, severe weather capable. And in some cases, those travel trailers in a rainfall like we're having today could rock around, right? If you get some strong straight line winds. So we've had to think about, how do we call evacuations, the timing of that, so we make sure we get those people out. Those people are in some cases don't have other places to go. So, where's your shelter going to be? How are you going to get them there? If the duration changes, right, you're calling that evacuation a little bit earlier. Instead of that three days of medicine and stuff they have to bring with them, is it maybe 5 days now? That sort of stuff. So we retool all those plans, and that's the point of doing this big interagency meeting we're going to do in a couple of weeks, is to get everybody on the same page. So if we need school buses, right? We talk to the superintendent and say, leave the keys on the desk. We're going to come commandeer your school buses to get people to Monroe or a mega shelter. Always working with the sheriff's office on traffic control, making sure nobody's looting anything, especially in the aftermath of a hurricane. Working with Chet to make sure that we're not evacuating too soon, so the industry can still operate. And then the fact that we can get them back over there as quickly as possible, making sure that roads are clear, to get the port back up and running as quick as they can to keep the oil flowing, that keeps the gas stations running, that we're going to need to run generators. So it's a lot to wrangle in a couple hour meeting, but we've gotten pretty good at it. So hopefully.
You've been battle tested, really, and I don't mean to say that, but I mean not to compare it to war, but it is you kind of been, and not to use another term, but PTSD, right? Is that everybody's got some post-traumatic stress about this time of year. Do you find your citizenry maybe have a different idea, like I'm getting the heck out of here this time, as opposed to, because that used to be the thing, right? Everybody's worried about their home, other people going in if they leave and that kind of stuff. A lot of people didn't want to leave, even if they didn't have the strongest of shelters. Do you find anybody talking differently now? Because I know some people where I live, like, I ain't staying again next time I'm going.
I've heard that a lot, that a lot of people said, well, the old adage was, well, the house survived Betsy, or I was here for Betsy and it wasn't that bad. Well, this was the new Betsy for Lafourche, right? So we talked to a lot of people that when you bring up the hurricane, like, I'm not staying again, right? I was stupid today's time. I really shouldn't have done it. It was really scary. So as bad as that is, it's a good thing, right? That we're getting more and more people out. We were able to get people back in pretty quick after the hurricane, although we were trying to tell you to stay away because we knew we didn't have water, we didn't have power in a lot of the parish. But working with the sheriff, things kind of flowed pretty seamlessly. The thing was trying to get people off the roads once you stayed home, right? So Energy could get trucks in there, we can get stuff cleaned out. We were really lucky the National Guard sent us basically a platoon of MPs, right, that helped direct traffic and aided the sheriff's office with all the other entities that came in. So I think when we call an evacuation, if we have to this time, we're going to get a lot more people to leave, which is a good thing from a public safety perspective, but it's going to be managing those people when they try to come back in.
Yeah, as long as they have fuel. That was the biggest issue. Right. Most people have generators now that they picked up along the way. They can survive. We're, kind of environmental tough people that can survive that kind of stuff, but you need fuel. That was the biggest thing. And then if you got to drive to Lake Charles to get gas, it makes it tough.
Yeah. But look, I go to church every Sunday and just pray we don't have to deal with it again. So let's hope somebody up above is listening and we don't have to worry about it so much.
We've done our penance.
No doubt. No doubt.
So thanks, man. Well, look, best of luck with the rest of the things. I know you got a busy schedule the rest of the way. Got a lot of stuff going on. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Harry.
All right, we'll have Archie Chaisson back on again. That'll do it for this edition of Bayou Time. I'm Harry McCullough. We'll see you next time.